Hacker News Daily, July 1st, 2025. Good morning, and welcome to Hacker News Daily for July 1st, 2025. I'm your host, and we're kicking off the month with a story that perfectly captures the spirit of Hacker News: questioning authority, building tools, and crowdsourcing the truth. Out of the 30 stories that hit the front page today, one absolutely dominated the discussion with nearly 1,500 points and over 500 comments. It's a tale of skepticism, DIY problem solving, and what might be the most expensive counting error or optical illusion you'll hear about all year. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into today's top story from Hacker News. So here's something that'll make you question everything you see in museums. You know how sometimes you're walking through an exhibit and there's that one display that just doesn't sit right with you? Well, that's exactly what happened to someone visiting the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago's Money Museum. And what they discovered has the entire internet doing a collective double take. The story is called "The Fed Says This is a Cube of $1 million. They're off by $500,000. And it's got over 1,400 points on Hacker News, with people absolutely losing their minds over this. Picture this. You're at the Fed's Money Museum in Chicago, standing in front of this transparent cube that supposedly contains $1 million in $1 bills. It's one of those classic museum displays, right? The kind where you're supposed to go, wow, that's what $1 million looks like. But this visitor, they weren't buying it. Something about the cube just looked off. Maybe too small, not dense enough. So they did what any reasonable person would do in 2024. They tried to count it. And here's where things get really interesting. They couldn't find a simple tool to do this. Think about that for a second. We've got AI that can write poetry and cars that drive themselves, but nobody had made a basic web app where you can upload a photo and count objects by clicking on them. All they could find were these ancient Windows programs from like 2003 or super specialized scientific software designed for counting cells under microscopes. So our intrepid fact checker built their own tool. They called it Dot Counter. Super minimalist, does exactly what it says on the tin. You upload an image, click to place dots on things you want to count, and boom, you've got your number. Sometimes the best solutions are the simplest ones, you know?
And here's the kicker. After painstakingly counting the visible bills in that cube, they came up with a number that's about half of what the Fed claims. We're talking roughly $500,000, not $1 million. The Federal Reserve, the institution that literally controls our money supply, the people we trust to be precise about every single cent, might have been displaying a half-truth in their own museum for who knows how long. Now, the Hacker News crowd, they're having a field day with this. The discussion is fascinating because it's split into camps. You've got the skeptics who are like, no way the Fed is actually wrong about this. They're arguing that the cube probably has exactly $1 million, but with hollow space inside or some kind of filler material. Makes sense, right? Maybe they built the cube to certain aesthetic dimensions and then put the exact million inside, leaving empty space. One commenter, Good Canadian, makes a really compelling point. They're saying it's way more likely that the Fed is right and the author's assumptions about uniform packing are wrong. Think about it. Would the Federal Reserve really mess this up? Or is it more likely that the bills aren't packed perfectly uniformly throughout the cube? Then you've got people suggesting that maybe the aluminum frame is hiding additional stacks that weren't counted. Like, what if there are bills tucked behind those support beams that you just can't see from the viewing angle? But here's what really gets me about this whole thing. Whether it's actually $1 million or $500,000, this story reveals something deeper about trust and verification. We walk through museums, government buildings, institutions of authority, and we just believe what they tell us. This person didn't. They saw something that didn't look right, and they actually took the time to verify it. And in the process, they ended up creating this simple tool that apparently nobody had bothered to make accessible before. The comment section goes down some wild rabbit holes too. People are sharing similar estimation challenges they've encountered, discussing different counting methodologies, even bringing up computer vision applications. Someone mentioned how this reminds them of those carnival games where you guess how many jelly beans are in a jar. except this is the Federal Reserve we're talking about.
What I love about this story is that it's simultaneously about something incredibly specific, counting bills in a cube, and something universal, about questioning what we're told, even by authoritative sources. Plus, the idea that in 2024, this person had to build their own counting tool because nothing suitable existed, that's just chef's kiss. Perfectly illustrates how sometimes we overlook the most basic needs in our rush to build the next big thing. The Fed hasn't responded yet, at least not that I've seen. But can you imagine being the museum curator who gets that email? Hey, so about your $1 million cube. And that's it for today's top story from Hacker News. Out of 30 stories that crossed the front page on this first day of July 2025, this one captured the community's imagination like no other. It's got everything: a David versus Goliath narrative, a DIY solution to a problem nobody knew existed, and enough ambiguity to keep 500 commenters arguing well into the night. Will the Fed respond? Is there really $1 million in that cube? And perhaps most importantly, how many other facts are we walking past every day without questioning? If you want to try out that dot counter tool yourself or dive into the heated discussion, you know where to find it. Just head over to Hacker News and look for the story with 1,400 points and a comment section that's basically turned into a masterclass in estimation theory. Thanks for listening to Hacker News Daily. I'll be back tomorrow with the stories that matter to the tech community. Until then, keep questioning, keep building, and maybe count your money twice.